Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. John Hoshite says it's 9 o'clock and we'll start. Pat says we have enough bodies. I'll call you to order, and the first thing, and John Hoshite would like to lead us in the pledge.
Or anybody to
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We think a lot.
This morning, we have 4 people signed up to speak. Oh, sorry. Roll call. If you like it.
Present.
Here.
Castro. Dahl.
Here.
Gallows.
Here.
Ross. Gillum.
Here.
Kane.
Here.
Coltrane.
Here.
Fresno.
Here.
Bizarre.
Here.
Leonard.
Here.
Lewis.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Molina. Pollock.
Here.
Sheffield.
Here.
Silva. Smith.
Here.
Sherrick. Vasquez. Renee.
Here.
Okay, we'll begin this by, there's 4 of you who are going to speak. You're allowed to speak 3 minutes, and then we'll call your attention to it, and then so everybody will have time to get their say-so. The first one is Christina Domain. I want to thank you for the artwork this morning.
That's my son. You're welcome. Hi, my name is Christy Stock Domain. I live in Fox River Estates. I'm going to be very candid with you today. 4 weeks ago, I stood in front of you and I tried to paint a picture of the habitat destruction and wildlife displacement that will occur when the St. Charles Row Club completes their funding and breaks ground at Fox River Bluff. I was hoping that the moral compass of this group of leaders would have quickly and easily brought an end to this campaign. Instead, I've heard nothing. But I have been busy these last 4 weeks. I have discovered that this is a common theme here in Kane County. In Kane County, a forest preserve is not a forest preserve, it's an opportunity for income and tourism. In Kane County, missions are written but not followed. Commissioner Lewis was quoted in the Courier News article stating that this development is definitely within your mission. I do not agree, my community does not agree, 1,300 inciting citizens do not agree, so I sought to find others that share our viewpoint. Some nice folks over at the Illinois DNR were disappointed to hear about these doings. They definitely do not agree with you, Kane County. I'd like you to hear what they say on the matter. The proposed rowing club does run counter to the mission of enabling legislation that created forest preserve districts. I recommend that you demonstrate to the board that this intended use with the row club is not consistent with that legislation. Also inquire with the district if there were any restrictions placed on the use of the land. Indeed, there are. In '91, you signed a contract to obtain funds from an OSLAD grant to purchase Fox River Bluff East. Let me share with you the restrictions placed on this land. No easements or other land encumbrances may be granted without the prior written approval of the Illinois Department of Conservation. The grant also states no indoor buildings, nor can you seek approval for structures, yet the agreement signed by Kenyon and Hoshite would allow the SCRC to erect a facility. Now, this conclusion makes me draw either you're trying to dupe the community and allow this club to build, knowing that breaks your grant agreement with the state, or you're duping this club into thinking that this plot can be a forever home for a future facility, or no one here bothered to read the grant paperwork before signing this agreement. This is concerning stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Our lawyer says the misuse of funds meant for conservation gives us ground to sue. Commissioners Kenyon and Hoshite are quick to respond that this issue is a moot point, saying they don't have the funding. It becomes a moot point when you choose to do the right thing and dissolve this 10-year agreement. You didn't notify any neighboring residents prior to signing this. Your morals and values as my elected governing body are shattered. You do not represent my voice. You are clouding your responsibilities as county board members with your duties as forest preserve members, and that is the cusp of the problem. So give me another 4 weeks. I'm already underway completing the requirements needed to file a declaration of intent and have a member of my community ready as a write-in candidate for November elections. Feel free to contact me at Facebook on Save Fox River Bluff. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker is Mark Schmidt.
Good morning. My name is Mark Schmidt. I'm a St. Charles resident. In 2013, we purchased our property, which is directly north of the Fox River Bluff East Forest Preserve. Backing up to a preserved land was ideal, since by definition, it's not available for development. However, in Kane County, that does not appear to be the case. I moved here from DuPage County, by the way. In November 2014, you signed a land use agreement with a private club. In this agreement, from paragraph 1, use granted herein is intended to permit this club to limit use and access of others to the property. This goes beyond a special use permit and is privatization of public land and violates the mission of the Forest Preserve District of Kane County. The district's role is to acquire, preserve, and protect natural land, not to approve the use of them for causes that you deem worthy. The land of Fox River Bluff was obtained through an open space lands acquisition and development grant, as stated earlier, in February of '91. The agreement stipulates no portion of the property may be traded, sold, or otherwise exchanged without the prior written approval of the Illinois Department of Conservation. I've submitted a Freedom of Information Act request to get this information from the Illinois Department of Conservation. It also states that no indoor buildings exclusive of service support structures or sanitary facilities may be constructed on the property acquired and or developed hereunder. But yet in the user agreement, phase 2 allows the club to implement permanent infrastructure and asphalt drive parking, storage building 20 feet by 100 feet, and small fenced area for secure storage around the building. Possible clubhouse in phase 3 if program grows to necessitate more indoor program space. I ask, is this a misuse of state funds? Transparency appears to be at issue. In April 24, 2014, a presentation by this club for the use was given to the board. The minutes indicate to continue working with the group to bring back a proposal and draft agreement. The next time there's mention of this is in meeting minutes in November 2014 when it's marked as resolved. In October of 2015, I delivered a hard copy petition signed by 80 residents of the surrounding community. Presently, as we just heard, this petition is up to about 1,300 signees. Therefore, I'm asking you to exercise Clause 16 in this agreement, which allows you to revoke the license agreement in order to preserve and restore the nature of Kane County. You all have my contact information on my request to speak form. If you'd like to dialogue further, which I would love to, please feel free to contact me. Thank you for your time. You have a great day.
The next one is Richter Brandt.
My name is Brant Richter. I'm 6N117 Oakwood Drive in St. Charles. I had moved to this community last summer from up north, from McHenry County. And I guess I'm more concerned about the unintended consequences. I guess, I'm all about the row club, but I think this location isn't appropriate considering it's a navigable waterway for a lot of recreational users. And what they want to grow this into would severely affect the recreational use of the river. For a short time, I lived in Park Shores below the dam in St. Charles, and I noticed a lot of rowing was occurring in that area, probably because there's less, motorized boat traffic, which is probably more conducive there to that type of activity. But I guess the initial thing that I look at is, displaced wildlife. Yeah, this is going to happen or not. But when this happens, we already have coyotes, packs of coyotes. They naturally hunt that area. And if this wildlife starts getting displaced into these neighborhoods, either in Wayne or St. Charles unincorporated, that hunting is going to start occurring in our neighborhoods. We all, some have small pets, that's not a big deal. Some have cats, that'll take care of that problem. But, I think we got to consider what's going to happen. Now we're going to have a coyote problem. Okay, we're going to have to get rid of the coyotes. Now we're going to have more of a raccoon problem. So where does this end? One of the other things I was considering, all the homes in this area are on private wells. And I started thinking about, so when we start to pave surfaces, we're reducing the amount of water that can be absorbed, so we have more watershed. So I did some quick calculations this morning. We get about 36 inches of rain a year, and for one parking spot, that equates to about 605 gallons. Times 50 parking spots, that's that much more water that just ends up as runoff into the river versus what can charge our water table. Natural water is a natural resource. It's a finite resource too. So we need to consider, what's going to happen. Whether you're on a private well or a municipal well, we all need to charge the water table. We've got to be responsible for that. And then I had mentioned the recreational use. If people bought properties along the river and their values go down because they can't exercise their right to use their boats or whatever during the times that they're allotted, or if they're not able to use it, that's going to affect property values as well as, the recreational use of this river. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kurt Wagner.
Good morning. My name is Kurt Wagner, and my family's home borders the north edge of the Fox River Bluff Forest Preserve along the river. Directly in front of where the St. Charles Rowing Club is looking to cut down trees and build their boat launch is a sandbar. This sandbar has been enjoyed by hundreds of boaters every year for decades as a safe haven where people can get out of their boats and enjoy the river at shallow depths. In the summer months alone, there are anywhere from 80 to over 100 people occupying that space each weekend day. There are channels on the east and west banks of the sandbar that experienced boaters know to use in order to safely navigate around this densely populated area. If the SCRC is allowed to proceed with monopolizing the east channel of the sandbar as a launch for their boats, this will raise serious safety concerns and create a bottleneck of powerboat traffic in an already highly congested area of the river. I urge you to consider this. Consider the ramifications of this for the safety of everyone who uses the river, including the SCRC. Additionally, the weekend-long regattas that would be held with a minimum of anywhere from 500 participants to upwards of 1,500 per Mr. Miller's 2014 address to the St. Charles City Council would literally shut down this part of the river, an action that would not sit well with other boaters and voters of Kane County who come into St. Charles year after year and frequent our restaurants and our stores and our gas stations as part of a result of enjoying this navigable stretch of waterway. Mr. Kenyon was quoted in a March 3rd article in the Kane County Chronicle as saying, "All we really want to do is see more people use the river." It appears that Mr. Kenyon hasn't spent much time on this part of the Fox River in recent years, as the amount of boaters has grown exponentially year after year. This may not be visible from the Main Street Bridge, but I encourage anyone to drive over the Red Gate Road Bridge on a weekend afternoon in the summertime, where you'll see water skiers, wakeboarders, fishermen, pontoon boaters, canoeists, rowboaters, jet skiers, wave runners, jet boaters, fan boats, scullers, and even an occasional seaplane landing in this tiny navigable corridor. I don't have any issue with the SCRC wanting to find a permanent space along the Fox. I do, however, have an issue when this space impedes the rights of other boaters due to an utterly unwise and unsafe choice of locale. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Linda Schramm.
Good morning. I'm talking about the area of the ComEd power lines in the Plato Center area. We've recently talked with Michael Great, the ComEd project manager, and he sent us a map and asked us to put the line like where we would like the power lines to go to in the Plato Center area on by Plato Road. And so we're in conference with him, and I would like to pass out the map of that area so you could kind of get an idea, maybe might have to share a few. I think there's about 17 of them. So the portion of the Marehead Springs that was actually purchased by the owners of Les and Lorraine Marehead is a whole different Marehead than that is up by the Rorson Road, which is distant cousins. That little tongue on the bottom is only 1,019 feet wide, and we would like to see the power line route go over that little tongue there. That's 1,019 feet wide. And I've talked with Michael Great, and at one of the meetings, ComEd had stated that they could actually go put the poles 1,000 feet apart. And so this is being 1,019 feet, I'm sure there wouldn't be any problem, so it's possible there might not be any power lines, any poles at all on that property. And there are no restrictions. Like I say, this is a whole different Marehead than further up north. And it's, again, just cornfield, just like all the other land out there. So I'd like you to consider having that done, because it also would help many people along that route not be affected at all. As you can see on the route, first of all, Norm Shuring and all the Shurings there's 3 different families. Their land would not be affected at all, which on the primary route it is affected now. They own 68 acres. And also the Marehead brothers, Wayne, Dean, and Dennis, they own 38 acres. Their parents is the ones that sold the Forest Preserve the land, and they are in agreement of having it go across that little tongue of the Forest Preserve. They have sent emails to Monica Myers about that, and they are in full agreement. And so also they own 38 acres that's going to be affected if it stays this old way. And also Lynn and Betty Landmeyer have 38 acres that's going to be affected. It's going to go right through the back of their property. They would not be affected at all if it was allowed for it to go through that 1,019 feet that I'm referring to. And also my mother's farm that is represented here of 119.9 acres. It would be at the very back of her farm rather than going through the dead center of her farm and just ruining the farm completely.
Linda?
Yes.
Thank you.
So I would just ask you to prayerfully consider that. Thank you.
That, all the public comment I've got requests for. So we're going to move into our program. The first thing, Bill Grazer is going to introduce a University of Illinois graduate student. He's going to talk about a bird study he did for the Forest Preserve. Bill?
Good morning. Pleased to introduce Scott Kiyobachi from the University of Illinois and also now of the Illinois Natural History Survey. He's bringing back to you to share the results of a study the Commission approved in 2012 on shrubland birds in Kane County Forest Preserves and elsewhere. So Scott's going to share that with us now.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you for inviting me. So I'm sure as many of you are aware, Chicago wilderness area, so the area encompassing the lake generally, is pretty well protected as far as public lands go, probably some of the best in the state. And one of the great benefits about this habitat is that it forms this vast network of protected and managed lands for birds and other organisms. And in addition to just the benefits to wildlife, there's also considerable resources devoted to human benefits through trail use, recreation. One of the important things that really drove us to do some research up in Kane County, I think one of the reasons we got support from Kane County and other counties up in the region and state agencies, is that it's important to know how these wildlife preserves and forest preserves are doing as far as providing beneficial habitat to wildlife. Ultimately, that's one of the main goals of providing that habitat. So for our purposes, we asked the overarching question, do Kane County Forest Preserves help support healthy and diverse bird communities? One of the reasons we focused on birds was I'm kind of a bird person, that was what my PhD was on, but also they're generally a pretty good indicator of habitat quality and ecosystem health. And a lot of them, especially the birds I studied, have been declining dramatically in both Illinois and throughout the country. So we thought this would be a great opportunity for us to see what was going on the ground and see how Kane County and other forest preserves are doing at providing quality habitat for birds. So we sought to determine the quality of shrubland and forest habitat in Kane County. These are two pretty dominant habitat types. Shrubland is often sort of considered less aesthetically pleasing, if you will, than forest and grassland habitat, but it's pretty critical to a wide range of habitat. So we sought to do two things mainly to answer this question. One was to estimate bird abundance and bird diversity, so just the general number of birds that are there, and then the variety of birds that we see, and then how well they're actually doing at reproducing. So one of the reasons a lot of these birds come to Illinois in the summertime, you don't hear a lot now, is because they migrate here just to breed. So we wanted to measure how well they're doing at that. So we went out, we did these what are called point counts. We just went out and counted the number of birds we saw and heard 3 times a year. At each of our Kane County sites, we had 6 sites. We did that 3 times a year for 2 years. We went out and we located nests. I had some people that Kane County helped support, and then some other people that other counties helped support that came over to help out with some stuff. We counted the eggs, we monitored nests, we put up these tiny little cameras. It looks pretty big there, it's about the size of a golf ball. And that allowed us to document what predators were coming and eating eggs and nestlings of the birds. And as a supplement to the first 2 years of the project, we went out and we captured young birds and took some physiological measurements on them to see how healthy they were. So right into the results, we conducted 84 counts in forests and 84 counts in shrublands just to estimate bird abundance and diversity. And what we found was that shrublands tended to have much greater diversity of birds and a much greater abundance of birds, which isn't too surprising considering that shrublands tend to be more appealing to a wider variety of birds than some of the forests here, especially because the forests here aren't the biggest that you could probably have. A lot of forest birds tend to be what we call area sensitive. They'll only occupy forests of a certain size. So the forests you have here are generally healthy based on the nest survival results we found. We found far fewer nests in forests than in these shrubland habitats, again, mostly because there's a greater abundance and diversity of birds in these shrubland habitats. However, we found that birds did equally well as far as reproduction in both of these, so it doesn't seem that forests are any lower quality than shrubland habitats. They just support fewer species and fewer numbers of those species. So we monitored 55 nests with those little cameras I told you about, and we documented 17 nest failures and 1 partial predation. So here's some of the predators that we got on video. 5 are weasels. Those were our most common predators in Kane County and all the other counties we worked in. We also got 3 garter snakes, 1 possum, 2 mice, 3 deer. That's always kind of a shocker to everybody. And deer aren't just common in Kane County, they're actually a pretty common predator in other counties as well. A brown-headed cowbird, some of you that might be into birds probably know that a cowbird's a brood, what we call a brood parasite. They'll go in and they'll remove eggs or nestlings of other birds and lay their own eggs in there for the other individuals to raise. So it'd be like humans just dropping their baby off on somebody else's doorstep and letting them raise it. And then we had some starvations, which are relatively common. So this is the obligatory scientific graph, but I just want you to focus on those red stars. Those are the Kane County sites that we worked at, and this is just a graph of how well the nests in Kane County survived relative to the other study sites that we had in Illinois. So the take home from this is that Kane County sites do generally much better than all the other sites in Illinois. So on the far right of the graph, there's sites down in East Central Illinois where the University of Illinois is, and then those 3 other ones that are about level are up here in DuPage County and McHenry County. So on average, nests in Kane County survived about 70% of the time, which is pretty phenomenal relative to a lot of other areas. And so getting to the the measurements on nestling health, so that the health of the young that were in the nest. We found some surprising things with common species like robins and cardinals. Robins did generally, the nestlings were in worse condition than some of the other sites that we had in Illinois, which is a bit surprising. But robins are super abundant, so it's not really that concerning. Cardinals were about average. Again, cardinals are super abundant. They're resident. We're not too concerned about that. The more interesting ones were the catbird, that gray bird on the right, and then the brown thrasher, which is the farthest one on the right. Brown thrasher has been a species that's declined pretty dramatically in Illinois and elsewhere. So the fact that their nests survive well and their nestlings, their chicks, are in really good condition in Kane County is a good sign that what's going on in Kane County is good for species that are declining. So just to draw some conclusions from the work that we did here, in general, I'd say that Kane County preserves provide pretty good breeding habitat for birds, especially relative to other areas in Illinois. There's high nest survival in both urban and rural sites, so one of the great things about Kane County is we're able to look at the far eastern side of the county, which is heavily urbanized, and then the far western part of the county, which is much more rural. And oftentimes people think urban habitats are harmful to birds, whereas we sort of found that they aren't in any way. In fact, they may actually protect some birds by keeping out some really common predators that don't do well in urban environments. And then we found that in general, although shrublands tend to support greater abundances and diversity of birds, both forests and shrublands on these sites support pretty good and healthy breeding bird communities. And like I showed with the brown thrasher and some other species that are declining, in general, I'd say these preserves are probably pretty vital, not just Kane County, but DuPage County, McHenry County, and other sites in the Chicago wilderness area are pretty important for declining bird species. So looking ahead, in talking with Bill Gracer and Drew Olberg when he was here, really what we wanted to try and do was assess maybe what kind of management strategies that are currently enacted might be useful in the future. One of the things about shrubland habitat is it's often just kind of neglected habitat that just grows up into scrubby, what looks like kind of bad habitat. But in fact, whatever Kane County is doing now, even if it's more passive management, appears to be pretty effective at supporting a good diversity and healthy breeding bird population in these early successional habitats. However, in speaking with Bill, we had been talking about maybe looking at longer-term management of these shrubland habitats. Eventually, they'll probably grow up into forest if something isn't done. It may take 10, 20, 30 years, but eventually they'll revert to forest, and so they won't really be suitable for some of these birds that require that habitat. And one of the other things about these early successional habitats is that they're very prone to being overrun with non-native plant species. The plant species that often occupy these areas have evolved really to take advantage of disturbed habitats. And so these early successional areas are generally disturbed. That's why they're growing up in these early stages. So it's really important to consider if any management does take place on the ground that we factor in invasive shrub management to avoid them turning into this homogeneous landscape, which is going to reduce bird diversity and probably make it much less suitable to a lot of birds. So just to give you a brief rundown of how some of the money, in addition to the results that I presented here, how Kane County's support sort of helped my project and other people is that we presented the data that we got in Kane County and other sites at 15 international, national, regional, state, and local meetings. I give talks a lot, so I'm always plastering Kane County's symbol on my talks because I'm really appreciative of what they offer to the project. I hired 4 technicians on the money that they gave us, at least 2 of which are getting graduate degrees right now in ecology programs. And it's helped contribute data to at least 1 scientific article and at least 3 more in the future, probably a lot more than that. So with that, I want to say thank you. We appreciate all the help that Bill and Drew provided during this project and Kane County for the support. And if we have time, I'm happy to take any questions.
Does anybody have any questions? As long as we have this man here. Yeah, we're all worried about the new football.
Yeah, everybody's anxious, yeah. I don't really have many comments about that.
Maybe you can put a good bird on his mailbox.
Yeah, maybe.
Philip?
Well, I think it's contrary to
my thinking anyway, that there would be so many more birds nesting in the shrub area compared to the forest. Now, and one thing I was considering, is that because maybe you couldn't find all the nests because of the high canopy? And
That's definitely something that probably factored into it. So one of the things about forests is there's a lot more cavity nesting birds because there's cavities in forest, which are a lot harder to find nests for.
I was thinking.
The second one is the canopy nesters. However, we searched the canopy as best we could, and that combined with the counts that we did on abundance and diversity, we did find generally there were fewer birds. Now, one of the reasons I think that is because, like I said, a lot of forest habitat, at least forest birds, prefer larger sections of forest. They require a lot of forest. So if the forest is suitable for some birds like cardinals and robins, it may not be suitable for some warbler species, for those of you who are familiar with birds. Whereas these shrubland habitats, the birds have evolved to occupy small, oftentimes, at least evolutionarily, these birds evolved with no humans on the landscape where they were mowing large areas of forest or grassland. So they had to occupy smaller sections of habitat that just developed naturally, fire, tornadoes, or whatever. So the shrubland birds may not be the best comparison for forest bird health. The nest did survive equally well in both, but being harder to find is definitely something worth considering. And the understory wasn't super developed in the forest. If that were the case, you'd probably find more birds in that understory growth. That was a good question.
Any other questions?
The two blackbirds are back. Heard the first one last night.
True?
It's kind of interesting, because I just read a real interesting article yesterday, and I'm afraid I can't credit the newspaper, but one of the weeklies about the comeback of the eagle. And it talked about how they were down to like under 1,000 at one point in the 70s, I believe. But studies like this are what gave the data brought forth the DDT problem, and now they're back, and so these things do lead to good things.
I think so, yeah.
We appreciate your work and your advice, and we will use it.
Thank you.
You're always welcome in Kane County. We will postpone the windmill volunteer video until Rob is here. He's ill today, and then we'll move along with our schedule. We have the approval of the minutes of February 9th. Mr. Drew Frost, Barb Winicki, seconds. Is there discussion on these minutes? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The next is a presentation approval of bills for February. Mr. Davis moves. Is there a second? Mr. Lewis seconds. Is there discussion on the bills? This is a roll call vote.
Yes.
Castro. Yes. Dahl.
Yes.
Devos.
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Dillon. Yes. Kane.
Yes.
Oshak.
Yes.
Isbell.
Yes.
Kazar.
Yes.
Leonard.
Yes.
Lewis.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Molina. Yes. Powell.
Yes.
Sheffel.
Yes. Yes.
Garrett.
Yes.
Vasquez.
Yes.
Winnicki.
Yes.
Motion's approved.
You can shake those.
We have 3 bids. The resolution accepting a bid for the removal of concrete foundation material at the Freeman Kane Forest Preserve. Resolution accepting a bid for the repaving the drive and parking lot at the Johnson Mound Forest Preserve. And a resolution authorizing a change order for the University of Illinois shrubland bird study. We will take all 3 together, and we'll make a motion, we'll ask questions. Debbie Allen moves. Brian Dahl seconds. Are there any questions about any of these? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Allen. Aye. Bonner.
Yes.
Castro.
Yes.
Dahl.
Yes.
Devos.
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Dillon.
Yes.
Kane.
Yes.
Oshak.
Yes.
Isbell.
Yes.
Kazar.
Yes.
Leonard.
Yes.
Lewis.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Molina. Yes. Powell.
Yes.
Sheffel.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Garrett.
Yes.
Vasquez.
Yes.
Winnicki.
Yes.
All 3 resolutions pass. Now, under the title of Finance, we have 2 resolutions. Resolution authorizing a pay scale change for summer seasonal interns. Do we have to do this separately?
No. You can do these together if you care.
Okay. Next is a resolution authorizing the third amendment to the license agreement with the Gulf Visions Management. Moved by Barb Winicki, seconded by Mark Davis. Sorry, Mark. Is there discussion on either of these?
Sorry about that.
All in favor, vote yes at the roll call.
Allen. Aye. Bonner.
Yes.
Castro.
Yes.
Dahl.
Yes.
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 Gillum.
Yes.
Kane.
Yes.
Bochamp.
Yes.
Isbell.
Yes.
Lazar.
Yes.
Leonard. Lewis.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Molina. Pollock. Sheffler.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Vasquez. Winicki.
Yes.
The resolution's passed. Next, we have an intergovernmental agreement, 2453, resolution authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Elgin to grant an easement for proposed sewer and water improvement work. I'll take this one separate. That would be Christina Castro and Maggie Auger. Is there discussion on this? Okay.
Auger. Yes. Castro.
Yes.
Dahl.
Yes.
Gallo.
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Gillum. Yes. Kane.
Yes.
Bochamp.
Yes.
Isbell. Lazar.
Yes.
Leonard.
Yes.
Lewis.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Molina. Pollock. Sheffler.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Vasquez.
Yes.
Winicki. Yes.
Resolution passes. The next, under an agreement, a resolution authorizing the Second Amendment to the Second Amended and Restated License Agreement with the Cougars Baseball Partnership and American Sports Enterprises. Mr. Hochheit moves. Susan Sterrett seconds. Is there discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote.
Allen. Aye. Auger.
Yes.
Castro.
Yes.
Dahl.
Yes.
Devers.
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Gillum.
Yes.
Kane.
Yes.
Bochamp.
Yes.
Isbell. Lazar.
Yes.
Leonard.
Yes.
Lewis.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Molina. Pollock.
Yes.
Sheffler.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Vasquez.
Yes.
Winicki.
Yes.
Motion passes. There is no need for an executive session. Under President's comments, Monica is going to talk to you about a paper sheet prepared for your knowledge.
We put some information together for you regarding our recent grant that we received from the North American Wetlands Conservation Act. We applied for this grant in November, and it's to do some wetland improvements up at the Pingree Grove Forest Preserve. I'd like to thank Bill Grazer for his work on this grant, and if there's any questions, he can certainly answer them. What was nice about this project is we were able to take the credit of the land acquisition price as well as some in-kind work on the district's part as part of our match, which allowed us to be much more efficient with our funding that we're putting towards the project. It's going to be about $110,000, and we'll be reimbursed $75,000 of that funding. And it's because we rated so high, being able to match the land acquisition price, as well as our in-kind work, that was able to bump us up closer to the top to be able to get awarded. But it's also a nice, typically we get 50-50 matches. What's nice about this is the percentage that will be coming back from our cash outlay. So we wanted to put some information together. There's a press release that's going out, and then you have all the details of the project.
Thank you. I need a resolution motion to put all the reports on file. Mr. Heyman moves. Mr. Zauber seconds. Discussion that. This is a voice vote. All in favor say
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. If there's nothing else to come before the commission, I'm looking for an adjournment. Mr. Heyman moves. Is there a second? Mr. Smith seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.